Welcome to Details Untold, hosted by me, Nick, and my best buddy, Jason. Hey, Jason, how's everything going, man?
It's going all right. How about yourself, Nick?
Oh, dude, I'm loving life. I'm wearing this wonderful purple, like, I don't know, it's like a cottony shirt. Oh, I feel like I'm like, oh, it feels so good.
I'm bringing
So,
back my high school days, my little all black emo. No,
oh, yeah.
going for the opposite vibe here.
Going for the opposite vibe. Yeah. We got one side
Yeah.
bright and shiny, and then the cloud over there, huh?
I just need
Oh,
Vader. I
Jason.
just need Vader back there instead of Yoda. It'll be perfect.
Well, listeners, welcome to Details Untold, where we interview interesting, amazing people that have done awesome things through their lives and sometimes continue to do through their lives. We have a real treat today. I'm so excited to talk to our guest. It is of no relation to me. I am related by marriage to Evan, and so I've actually never talked to him. I've never met him. So this will be a first. I do know about his history, and it is lengthy. I mean, the number of things this man has done in and on Broadway and off Broadway and around the globe. We're gonna have to dive right in. Like this, there's just so much we need to cover that I need to get my stuff together and make sure my thoughts are not what they're doing right now. Aligned. Man, I'm so excited about this. But meanwhile, while we wait, how's everything been, Jason? You been good the past couple weeks?
Yeah. No, it's been good. Just been working a lot, and just been keeping busy. How about you?
I have exciting news. The last time we were on, I was leaving for Myrtle Beach for Sophia's national competitions.
Mhm.
Not only did she win first place in nationals in her division, they were welcomed back to perform for their Bright Stars, and they were the only level 1 team out of, like, I don't know, 30 that were invited to come back. So it was
That is
really
awesome.
really cool to see her team perform more than once and get such an honor to go. So
That's awesome.
made me
Congrats.
a proud dance dad. I've realized I'm a proud dance dad, and and just to watch her dance and everything like that. Now Juliana has made company, so now I get to watch both of them in competitions and everything like that. And I'm just really excited for both of them. It's something that they really really love to do, and just to see their bright and happy faces. And I can do this whistle like where I real loud, and
Nice.
all the girls now like come back and they're like, "We heard your dad whistle," and then and then one time I did it, they came back and go, "You only whistled like 3 times." I was like, "Okay, I'll whistle more."
That's awesome.
So
So are the girls doing the same? Are they part of the same company, or is it different?
they're part of the same company but different, because Sophia's 8 will be 9, Juliana's 5 will be 6. They're in different levels. So
Okay.
nice. So it'll be different dances, different stuff like that. So I'm excited.
I
do want to ask you what?
I was gonna say, wait till they get to high school and they're in the same bracket.
I know they're in the same bracket and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
I have not yet. So I'm on call for this week, so I
I.
haven't had a chance. Yeah.
Neither have I. I really want to see it. I heard it's a really good movie. So I guess listeners, stay tuned. That was kind of a dud to bring up, but I've heard people really liked it.
I heard people really liked it as well. Yeah. Because no, I'm really excited to go see that. I did see Twisters though.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was good. It was I mean, I have a spot for the original Twister movie.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
with the ride and everything here in Orlando and everything. Well, it used to be here, but yeah, I have a spot for that. But no, it was good. It was some parts were a little cheesy, but same thing with the original movie.
Right.
And
is it like a remake? Is it a sequel? Is it a prequel?
No, without spoiling it, so what kind of spoiler alerts, I guess there's some throwbacks in there to the original movie. So it is like this
like
happens later afterwards, but it's not there's not like a direct story tie-in necessarily.
Mhm.
But there are things that they reference from the old movie,
That they
such as
reference,
Dorothy.
okay. So it's kinda like a
Yeah,
sequel. I'll do
yeah.
a shameless plug because if anybody knows me, I love Ghostbusters. I love all of that stuff. Frozen Empire, the brand new Ghostbusters movie, is now on Netflix. Go watch it, support the franchise. I know, it's on Netflix already. So if you
Wow.
haven't seen it, it's on your streaming provider that you have. So get a nice bucket of popcorn,
Yeah.
and cuddle up to the newest Ghost. I don't know if you cuddle up to a Ghostbusters movie, but yeah.
Yeah. Or you can be like Nick and basically give the AMC lady a sob story about how your kid is a really big Ghostbusters fan and make her give up the
Oh, that's
Ghostbusters
true.
popcorn
Okay,
bucket. That was
okay. So
hilarious.
so back when we went to go see Afterlife, me and Jason went to go see Afterlife, and they were giving away Ecto One, which is the car, popcorn buckets, and I did my due diligence. I called ahead, made sure that they had the
Mhm.
buckets. Hey, how much are the buckets? Where are you going to have them? Are you going to have them at this theater? So me and Jason went to go see the movie at a designated theater that was going to have this popcorn bucket. And I get there and they all look at me like I'm nuts. And I'm like, no, you guys had them. And then I found out that they had them, but they let people buy multiples of them and they were out. And I was really heartbroken about this because I really, really do love Ghostbusters. So I asked for a manager to see, not to be that guy, but to see if she knew of any other theaters that could have one. There was a way to check. I know this sounds completely ridiculous for a popcorn bucket, but it looked just like the car.
It
And
was
by
very
the
cool.
way, ever since the Ecto One popcorn bucket, I swear popcorn buckets at movie theaters have gone like existential. Like that's what everybody has to have now, right? I think Deadpool has like 5 different kind of popcorn buckets. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I gave her this sob story about my girls. That might have been a lie, but like this whole thing, and then turns out that she was keeping one for herself and then ended up selling it to me for because she didn't buy it yet. So I got my popcorn bucket, so I was a
Yeah.
happy little boy. And then fast forward to Afterlife, or sorry, Frozen Empire. I went to the movie opening night, got my popcorn bucket, and I went to buy my ticket. And the lady's like, "Oh, do you want to pick where you want?" And she goes, she was going to ask me where I want to sit, and she goes, "Oh, never mind." And I was like, "Oh, well, here I thought I was going to show up and there's going to be like one seat." I ended up on opening night having the entire theater to myself
Oh
for
wow.
Frozen Empire. It was, and I sat there with my giant popcorn bucket, my ghost cup. It was fun. So
Oh, that's
yep,
crazy.
yep, yep. I know it was so fun. So
Cool.
guests are guests. Hello, guests. I meant listeners. You are in for a treat. I will say this man's been in over 6 different Broadway shows, touring not just the United States of America, but global. I am so excited to introduce him. I'm so excited to talk to him. So please welcome to the show, Evan Steinlauf. Hey, Evan, how's everything going? Welcome to the
Happy.
show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a good day. Tried
Yeah.
to stay nice and hydrated, and I ate just at the right time, so I don't nod off in the middle. The food at me.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love the fact that we're matching purples. This is, again, if you're watching, this was not planned. If you're listening, maybe a little bit. No, I'm kidding. We didn't plan this at all. So that's
Great
fun.
minds,
We're
man.
matching purples, matching purples. Well, Evan, I really do want to dive in. Welcome. This is my best friend Jason. He's my co-host on the
Hello, Evan.
show.
Hello.
You have an astounding past in New York and on Broadway and everything like that. And I am very excited. I was counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 shows touring nationally and global. Like what
Yeah.
drove you? Like, let's start. What drove little Evan to the theater? Like, what made you? Because you're from Florida, right?
Yeah, born and raised in South Florida. And I grew up playing sports. My parents threw me in soccer and baseball, since I was 4 years old. But my dad was really into theater. He just was a theater guy, So he's always playing the piano in the house and singing musicals, and I kind of didn't do it so much. It was just around me,
Right.
and I remember seeing my sister in like a school play and being like, I want to do that. And then I saw my dad doing a production of Fiddler on the Roof as the lead in that, at like the JCC. And I just remember
Wow.
looking up at my dad and just being like, oh, I want to be like my dad. And at one point, I remember he he went up on a line, and I was like, oh no, what happened? And he just kind of turned on and just made something up, and I just watched the entire audience just zoom in on him and just go with him and go for the ride. And I was like, oh, that feels really powerful to have that many people just kind of leaning in, and then you control them in a way. It was really powerful. And I just remember at that moment, even without having theatrical experience and doing it, thinking, that's something I want to do. And it's also probably a really great way to connect with my dad in a way, you know, like your kid, it was just a lot going on. So I was like, oh, I think maybe this would be a real good way to connect with him. And it just went through school, and I really didn't start doing any theater. I mean, I did a little, like my dad directed a show that I was in at the JCC that didn't count, but I didn't do anything except playing soccer and stuff. And then when I graduated from high school, I went and studied musical theater throughout Florida. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is part of me.
Wow. That's so now, is that something that your dad did? Like that he was in theater, or was it kind of like
when he was younger? When he was younger, he was into it. And I think, you know, at one point he may have thought that was a possible career path for him. But, you know, life happens, and, you know, he took another path, and yeah, I mean, I love my family. He's a great dad. Like, it's just, we have a great relationship. And so it's just been something that's been part of my family. I mean, even the other day, like about a month or two ago, like we were practicing and rehearsing just like a karaoke thing. And we went over to his condo and we're just singing together. And it was like heaven. It was like, oh my God, I get to do this with my dad. That's so cool.
It's so fun to bond over that. Like that's that's so neat. So now going straight into 2000. Now, did you audition in Florida? Did you pack up your bags and move to New York? Like, how did that?
Totally. I was going to schools throughout Florida. So I was like, my parents were like, you have to go to school. And I'm like, okay. So I was studying musical theater throughout different schools in Florida. And I was like, I don't like this one. I don't like this. And then I got into New World School of the Arts down in Miami. And after all the years in like college, I had like 3 years. They kind of started me at the beginning of their program. And I was like, okay. And then after 2 years, I was like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta get to New York, even though I was about like 20, 21 years old. And I'm like, I'm too old to be in school. Like, ridiculous.
I know more than you.
I know you. I know it. Yeah, it's like, okay. And so I was working for the summer to save up some money at a temp agency in Fort Lauderdale. They had a location in New York. And so I transferred up, and it was like the payroll guy for a couple months in New York.
Okay.
Hadn't done anything there. And then this one woman named Lainey Doss, she came up to me. She was in the sales, and you did not move to New York City to be the payroll guy at this staffing place. There is an audition next week for the European tour of Greece, and you're going to go. And I was like, okay. And so,
you want to be my manager?
Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, okay, well. And so I picked a new name, and I went to my first audition, and I booked it.
Wow.
I almost didn't book it because I danced first, and then I was getting ready to sing my song. It's like taking a while, and I felt someone tap me on the shoulder, and I was like, "You hitting on me?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Are you Ven Daniel?" And I said, "Yeah." They go, "Well, they've been calling your name for like 10 minutes." I said, "Oh no." And so I ran over there, and I was like, okay, I'm Van. I just picked my name last week. I didn't recognize it. We're cool. And so went in, I wound up booking the show. And within a week, I was in Germany rehearsing the European tour of Greece.
Holy cow, Evan.
It's cool. It's like, Mom, I need a passport. I said, I need my birth certificate. It's like, it was just like a family ordeal.
That is the dream right there. Like, you move up to New York and you get your first audition. Like,
yeah, it was a blessing. It really, it was a blessing.
Wow.
You know, and I hadn't been dancing, it was just in school. Like, it was just from school. I didn't grow up doing all this stuff. And so I got to my first job being like, oh yeah, I got this. And I was like, oh, this is real. Like, these are professional people.
These are professional people.
I better. And so each job that I got, I had the mentality of, let's see what everyone's doing. Let's see what I'm bringing to the table, what is expected of me. And I was always trying to get better, take my classes when I wasn't in something. It was just, I really had to have that mentality, and I think it served me pretty well, you know, for the years that I was in New York.
Yeah, I was going to say you had a good ride there, Evan. Like
Yeah.
now you did kind of bring it up. Where did the stage name come from?
So Evan turned into Ven.
Okay.
And then Steinlauf, you know, a lot of growing up for me was there was a lot of insecurities and just kind of don't see me, even though like I had this big red mop of hair and like just it was just I kind of stood out, but I was like, don't see me. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go to New York and have a fresh start and see what else. And I thought, let me change my name. But I also didn't want to disrespect my family. So I said Ven, Evan, and then Daniel is my dad's first name. So Ven Daniel.
Cool. Oh, so you paid tribute to him then. Like, listen,
as much as I could.
Like, wow. That's awesome. Now, that's so when you moved to New York, you had a job. So it wasn't like you weren't struggling, like you weren't like sleeping in my car or.
Well, it was kind of tough. It was kind of tough. When I first moved up there, my best friend and I, my best friend Katie, she and I moved up. She moved up like a month or two before I did, and she was living with two of our friends that we had gone to school with somewhere else. And then I was there, and I joined them for about a month. And like a month after being there, we were up in like Washington Heights, and we came home. The two people we were staying at, they were away. And so we were there for a month, and we came back one day and the place was robbed. And we got robbed. And then these friends came home like the next day and they're like, well, you owe us the money for this, the door lock, and the cable was expensive. And I was like, yeah, that is ridiculous. Even after being there a month, I was like, cable, come on. So my best friend Katie and I were like, screw you, we're out of here. And we wound up like couch surfing for a little bit. We wound up at a YMCA for like a week and a half. Like it was, we were like, we had to stash our stuff. It like called up people that we haven't spoke to in a year from school. Like, hey, can we leave some stuff at your place? It was a hot mess. And then we wound up finding an apartment in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, that wasn't finished yet. Like there was no elevator in the shaft.
Oh my gosh.
The peephole was like this. Like I had to take the refrigerator up like 3 flights of stairs from the basement. And while I was on that first show in Europe, my friend Katie was staying in her room, and her bedroom was right above the entrance. And it was like hot pink. It looked like a Pepto-Bismol room. I don't know why she did that. But anyway, so she was telling me a story that she was in her room just eating, and the news was on, and she hears, if you think you have it bad, imagine living here. And she looked up, and it was our front door and her window right there. There's apparently like a prostitution ring just kind of happening out of that space. It was a hot mess. So you know, like, it wasn't like a super easy, smooth transition there. But luckily, I was like,
you were. Wow.
Like, yes, it was something.
So you got the New York dream.
Oh yeah, totally.
And you booked your first show. Wow.
Yeah, the lady across the street had the best empanadas straight out of her front yard, though. I'll tell you, that's like full on New York. I said,
nice.
Yeah, this was a good time.
So now you book it, and then you said within a week you're in Germany?
Within a week, I'm in Germany. Went to Cologne, Germany, as we were rehearsing. And I toured Germany and Switzerland for about 6 months. And at that time, even then, I was like, I don't want to be here in Germany for like in Europe for 6 months. I want to be on Broadway. Like I want to be in New York, you know? So after my contract was up, I was like, peace. Went back to New York, and strange, like within another month or so, maybe an audition or two, I booked the national tour of Swing, the musical. And that was sort of a Broadway show. They had the first national tour they had, and we were going out on the second national tour. And I was cast as a swing. So it's a dance show, and it had singers, and then they had dance couples. And so I wound up covering like 6 roles. And so here it is, like my second job doing, on my resume, I was like title role, even though I wasn't but whatever. And so it was really a fascinating. It was one of the most fun shows to do. It was exhausting. I mean, thinking about it right now, my heart rate is rising and I'm sweating.
Yeah,
it was so challenging. But it was really, they advertised it as 2 hours of pure joy. And it really was 2 hours of pure joy where you are dancing different styles, and the audience would just go absolutely crazy. It was also like the show that my grandparents were able to see me in, which was good because there was like a lot of USO stuff, and it was fantastic. My mom still talks about it. She's like, "That was the best show." It was like,
oh my gosh! So
yeah, it was a good time.
So Evan, you were in the European tour for Greece, national and Japan for Swing.
Oh yeah,
national tour for Saturday Night Fever, Broadway debut of Tarzan. Like what?
Yeah.
And I heard you did some vine swinging in that.
Nice,
Broadway in Legally Blonde, and then you liked that so much you went on the national tour.
Yeah, so, interesting though. I was cast in the tour first. So I was cast as the UPS guy in the tour, and they wound up putting me in the Broadway show because there was just a turnover. There was something. There was a big reality show, and like their first show replacing the lead was also replacing the role that I got cast. They replaced. He was leaving at the same time, so they had me come in while they were looking for somebody. So I was. First, I had to rehearse the Broadway production of Legally Blonde, then do the show, and then start the rehearsals for the tour. So during the day, I was rehearsing the tour, and at night, I was doing the show, and it was just different enough where it was confusing. Where like on Broadway, you start to the right, but then in the tour, we'll start to the left, and it's like, but it was a highlight of my life. The tour was. One of the best experiences that I've ever had. I got to, of course, tour the world, but the people that I worked with, it was just a joyful show. The cast was a family.
How could you not be?
Yeah, and there were ages. There were like people starting off in their career, 18 years old, and then you had people up into their 60s. So we had a range, and we all got along, and we learned from each other. It was really a great experience. I look back on it with only fond memories. I miss that camaraderie. Yeah, it was a great time.
Who's one of the old ones that kind of like, did somebody take you under their wing?
Ones.
Dang, I just want to be like, I want to be like you, or like everything they said was just like pure enjoyment. Oh my God.
His name is Ken Land. Okay. Ken Land, he was playing Professor Callahan. And the thing is we would tell him how much we looked up to him and respected him. And he's a seasoned actor. He and his wife, Lizzie, were just these seasoned professional working actors. And we would tell him how much we looked up to him. And he's just kind of like, I'm just this guy, he's like doing it for all his life. And I don't know if maybe now he can look back and say, I guess I was, mentor, but he just showed us how to be this graceful, humble, welcoming, kind person, actor. And I don't keep in touch with all these people as much, but they're always here.
Right.
They're just always there with you, like, what a great model of a human being he was for me. And a lot of the guys there too, like musical theater. For some reason, that show had tons of straight musical theater men, theater men, which is a very specific breed. But because they're just showing you that it doesn't matter. We just love everyone. It really was just a great group of people. It was a blessing.
Okay. So for the national tours that you're doing, I'm assuming you're traveling to different cities and everything. Do they put you up in hotel rooms? Do you guys sleep on buses? Or are there any cool stories about the traveling experience with that?
Well, there are well, you know, some people like can't share.
Yeah.
It's a family for you. Family show.
You know,
Family friendly
well,
here. Yeah.
so I gotta be careful. I'm not gonna say there was, you know, well, I gotta be careful how much I'm gonna say. You guys
We
are
get
edit,
you.
but,
We
you
get
know,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, there depends on the tours. There are different levels of tours, you know, and as our union continues to try to find ways to get us work, you know, they sometimes have to make some be a little bit flexible. And so when I started, they had, you know, just one national tour, you know, it was just like top, and then they started to tier it where you would get paid different, and then you would get you know, the top, you get a full like paycheck and per diem and this and this and this. But with that per diem, you get your hotel and you have to pay for it all yourself. And then as it gets down, sometimes they'll pay you less. The per diem may be less, but they'll put you in a hotel or they'll find you a hotel at a certain rate, so it's reasonable.
Okay.
And then as it goes down, uh, you know, less pay. So I was the one where they were paying you pretty nicely,
Right.
not the highest. They were giving you the per diem, but for Legally Blonde, it was one of the first times that they allowed or they gave the actors kind of a little bit of the profit. So if the show made a lot of money, you know, a couple of weeks later, we'd get a little bit of a bump. And
Nice.
Legally Blonde at the time was killing it. So it was pretty nice over there.
Wow.
I had a good time with that. And then traveling and seeing all the cities was, you know, getting to travel and see, get out of your own bubble. I mean, luckily, I feel like I had the mindset to be able to appreciate it and recognize, you know, if you're in Japan, you're like, well, we don't do that over in America, or they're looking at me weird. Maybe I need to stop doing what I'm doing, you know,
what you're doing.
like,
right. So trying to be
you know, you walk around New York,
culturally appropriate.
Yeah, and just respect it and understand, like, oh, the people are different,
Right.
and doesn't mean that they're right, I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. It is what it is. So in New York, someone's handing out food on the street. Well, you know, first of all, why are you taking food from the street? No, but like if they're like giving you like a Coke bottle of Coke, try out our new Coca-Cola. You're like, thanks, and you go and you do what you got to do. Over in Japan, they're handing something out. You stand right there and you drink it right there, and you don't go anywhere. And then you return it, and then you go on your way. It's like just little things like that, or you don't cross the street until it tells you to cross the street. And in New York, you're just like, get out of the way, get out of the way, I gotta go.
Stop, Mr. Taxi. Wow.
I gotta go over there. Yeah, so it was really nice. And then you get to the United States and you see how big it is and how
different,
unique different cities are. But when they come to the theater, they come to the theater because people like the theater all over the country.
Yeah, I was going to say it's different, culturally different. Everything's different, but almost like once they walk into those theater doors, then they're an audience, right? Like it's like everybody's united. Everybody wants to see it. It's not like when you go to like, I don't know, like a movie and people try to figure out different things about the movie or like a fight or something like that. But like a theater, like everybody's just watching, right? They know the story. They don't know the story. They want everything to happen. They don't want somebody to fall off the stage. They don't want somebody to fumble. Like they're like, as an audience,
however,
they feel
I will
like
challenge
united.
you on that, if I may.
Oh, please.
I think one of the great things about live theater is that there is always a chance someone might fall off the stage. So there's always a chance that somebody is going to mess up. You don't go to a movie and think, I bet you someone's going to forget their lines.
Oh, that's true.
You know?
That's true.
You go onto the stage, you go to the theater, and you're seeing human beings do something in real time.
Right.
And I would say one of the hardest things about theater is doing something every single day for a year and making the audience feel that it's the first time that you're doing it.
It's the first time. Now, how did you do that? Because that's one of my questions is like, how do you do it the same show every day? Like, what do you do that, like, well, I don't know. What do you guys do on the sides and make people giggle? Like you always hear like people in the stage doors and they do funny faces or like, but like mentally, how do you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again?
Yeah, it's challenging. So you have to rehearse. You just have to be prepared. And as an actor, you have to always be listening. So meaning you're doing the same thing, but you're not actually doing the exact same thing. So even though, let's say my line is, hey, what are you doing? The person that's saying that to me may go, hey, what are you doing? And then I say my line. But if they're like, hey, what are you doing? and I say my line the exact same way I did before, it means I wasn't listening to them.
Oh.
So you kind of have to be present, and that kind of helps it feel new and natural. There are times when you're singing and you're like, wow, I need to cut my fingernails. Because you know what's going on, what's happening. You're like, well, it's gonna come out. Every now and then you mess up. You're like, where am I? What happened? And you got to get back on there. That's just the beauty of theater. Like, it's just anything can happen. I also like to be so prepared, but also recognize that you have a box. The director's telling you what you have to do, how you have to do it, and it's in a box, and you have to stay in that box. But within that box, you have a little freedom.
You have a little,
keep
little
it
room,
fresh, and you hope that the person who you're, working with at the time is having the same kind of a day, or the person in the wing isn't trying to get your attention and do something, or it just is. We're playful people, so there's always something going on, and it also depends on the show. I would assume I wasn't in Les Mis, and I'm sure in like a big old Les Mis scene, there's not somebody on the side going,
somebody on the battle floor going,
wow. I'm sure they do at some point. If you're doing that for a couple of years and you're just like dead on the floor, like,
So now when you're getting ready for a show, you're in your dressing room. What do you, depending on the show that you're in, like, what is your warm up? Like, what gets you in the zone? Like, are you just like, and then you just snap it on when you walk on the stage, or is it like a prop? Like, do you have to eat bacon and eggs, or what? Like, do you have a ritual, or is it
everyone
just kind
has
of
their own thing? I would say everyone's got their own stuff. Everyone has their own training background. Everyone has their own methods, and this one guy I worked with named Barry Anderson. We would basically at the same time, probably like 45 minutes to an hour before the show, we would go to the lobby of the theater and we would have moments to ourselves in the bathrooms, but we would always be kind of there at the same time. Like, we knew that an hour before we had to go there. We're not doing anything like that around other people. We come back in for Swing, which was a very heavy dance show. The cast would just all be on the floor and mats, stretching and warming up, making sure we're okay. And then there's some shows where, like, this is right in my wheelhouse. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I can just warm up a little bit. And then you also have to respect your castmates and how they choose to warm up. So let's say, a couple of us just don't care. We're just kind of playful, and this over here is in the moment. You want to give them the respect if that's how they want to, and just kind of play that by ear. Everyone has their own thing, but you have also got to put your mic on. You got to get dressed by a certain time. You have your stage manager calling up over the speaker, 30 minutes to places. Thank you, 30, 15 minutes to play. Thank you. And also anything can happen. When I was in Swing, there was a time when I, like, 5 minutes before the show started, it's like, you're on for this role. Wait, what? Huh? I gotta put that on. Those kinds of things. It's pretty. Anything can happen.
Now, what time call did your stomach ever like tighten on a time call? Like 5 minutes, or did it ever tighten? Or were you just like, okay, 5 minutes?
Only one time. Normally I'm pretty prepared. I do the same thing all the time. I figure out what needs to get done, and I like to kind of do the same thing for whatever show it is. But when I was doing Saturday Night Fever, I was playing the role of Double J, one of the lead guys, and I covered the lead, Tony Manero. And I was working out. It was probably like a month, 2 months into the show, and I was working out at the gym somewhere. It was like an underground gym, and I come out, and there's like so many messages, voicemails. Vin, you're on for Tony Manero tonight. And I'm like, oh. And so we didn't have any rehearsals for this. There were no rehearsals whatsoever. And at the time, it was early in my career, I didn't quite prepare as I probably should have on my own,
Right.
And so I called my stage manager, and I was like, you have about 3 hours to teach me this show. And so we kind of went through everything. And that was a time, like, 5 minutes before, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
This is, I should have a diaper on. So that was a scary one.
Wow, but you pulled it off?
Sort of. sort of. He has this big solo in the second act, and I started, like singing, and I was like, I am not with the music. Okay. And so I kind of like turned it into a little bit of an internal monologue just for a little bit. And I'm like, okay. It turns into about 3 minutes of me on stage saying absolutely nothing, like just a spotlight on me. And I'm just like, and the song ends, and the audience is like, what the? Have a stroke? What the hell just happened? Like, what's going on? And I run off stage, and this girl, she goes, oh, they didn't tell you those cuts, did they? So I went into like autopilot of like the version I sang at the audition, and like I hadn't rehearsed, like I was unprepared. And so it was a little bit of a different version. And I went on to the autopilot version than the other version. And I was just like, well, that's pretty humiliating. Sorry, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Sorry.
That's where the office is. They're fine.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah. Now, did you ever listen to any music going in, like before shows? Like, was music part of it? Was it the music of the show, or no music? Was that
some people had their things. Like some people were like, and then there were certain things I would listen to. But depending on the show, you had your people that you kind of kikied with a little bit and just got into the zone. Did your vocal warm-ups, whatever you needed to do. There wasn't any particular music that I found very centering. I was like, oh, this is going to get me in the mood. That wasn't kind of but I know a lot of people who did. And you can also hear just people warming up, making some of the weirdest sounds that you go, you're like,
how now, brown cow?
Yeah, right. Like, okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on back there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I
think people would be interested to see that stuff.
Yeah, like it just, oh my gosh, just being in so many shows, traveling. Now, when you were talking about traveling the nation and the globe and stuff like that, did you have anything like one thing like, oh, I have to get a cinnamon roll from every city that I'm in, or did you pick up like a shot glass from everywhere? Like, what was your did you have that thing that you had to do in that city, like visit their Starbucks or something like that?
We used to have, we called it Man Meet Mondays, because Monday was usually our travel day or a day off. And so we'd get to a city and we'd try to find a Brazilian steakhouse, and we would just try and destroy our bodies with copious amounts of meat. So we definitely enjoyed that. I'm trying to think. It's strange because, I was a performer for about 14 years, like in the business, and so there was definitely a different me for each tour, so the beginning kind of turned into like, oh, I'm in different cities. Let me be someone in my mid-20s going to different cities with different people, and then as I got older, I was like, oh, what's in Green Bay, and I'd say like, let's go look at what's around and take from the city itself, so
taking the city,
so like if I go to Seattle, I would make sure I would go to the first Starbucks, that one, and I want to go see the big things in each city. The beginning, I was just trying to.
You were young, I
was trying to explore all the people I could explore.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll use the word explore.
There we go. Wow. Now, I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite show to be in?
My favorite show to be in was, I guess I'm going to say Legally Blonde. It was my favorite show to be in. I was playing the UPS guy, and that role was just kind of written to stand out in a way, and the director, he kind of, I don't know if he necessarily wanted to, but eventually let me kind of do it the way that worked well on me. Like I didn't, in certain versions, they want you to kind of do what the person before, and the person who did it on Broadway was, this really well-known, talented, well-respected guy. But I didn't look like him. I don't carry myself like he does. So to expect me to do the exact same thing as somebody that I don't do, and I was working opposite his wife. So it was like, just let me try and do what he's doing. But I finally get to do it my way, and it was very well received. So there's a lot of just validation in that way. So that was really great. Now the swing, because dancing, that was my favorite type of dancing. It was joyful dancing. So those two are, we're fighting for best, but I think I got the most out of Legally Blonde as a performer, and I was older too. My brain was developed.
Now, Jason, I got one more question, and I'll throw it to you before we do questions from a hat. Now, Evan, I always like to ask people, along the way, did you ever meet anybody famous? Was anybody like when you were in like Saturday Night Live Fever? That's not Saturday Night Fever. Yeah, was John Travolta ever in the audience, or like was anybody ever like, oh my God, somebody's in the crowd, and you're like, or anything like that?
A couple times. Well, I got to meet Sophia Loren in Europe and in Greece. Like Sophia Loren, I was like, oh my God, you're going to Sophia Loren. I got to work with Brooke Shields. I did a show with Brooke Shields. Like we did
I love Brooke.
It was like Broadway for South Africa event, and I got to dance with Brooke Shields, and she was just a class act, nicest, kindest human being. She wouldn't remember me from anybody she ran into me. She'd be like, get out of the way.
You never know. Yeah.
But I got my picture of her right up over here. So like in my back room, I was like, all right, hey, bro. Yes, I don't typically get like starstruck or anything. So I'm like, oh, there's somebody. Oh, that's pretty cool. But those are pretty interesting ones. But other than that, that's kind of it that like stands out for me.
Oh, okay.
There are people in the audience,
in the audience,
looking over there. It's all right.
Now, just being in New York, did you ever run into anybody? Or you would
see people. You'd be like, oh, geez, that like, you can literally run into somebody like, oh, whoa, watch out, buddy. Oh, hello, sir. Good to see you. I'm a big fan of you.
Sorry, Patrick Stewart. I didn't mean to hit you.
Exactly. Oh, pardon me, sir. My bad. You just see people all the time, like all of a sudden you're ordering something at Starbucks. You're like, oh, there's like 100-time Tony Award winning Audra McDonald. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, all right. Carrie Russell was like on a train one time. It was just like, oh, you're Carrie Russell. And it was right when Felicity was big before she cut her hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, damn, this is so cool. I'm in New York. Really, anything can happen.
Yeah, cool. I always like to ask because one time Kristen took me to New York. It was my first time. I was there with Alicia and family, and we just got off at Madison Square Garden off the subway, and we had Sophia at the time, and everybody's just kind of like rushing, and there was a giant taxi line outside of Madison Square Garden. But again, little me was in this giant city that I hadn't been in before. So I'm like, got my phone out and I'm taking pictures of Madison Square Garden and the Empire State Building, and they're like, Nick, we're gonna go up a block to catch a taxi, so we don't have to wait for all these guys. And I was like, okay. So like they're all walking ahead, and I'm like, Kristen, look at this, and she's like, cool, but we gotta go. I said, okay. So then like at that moment, I have a really good thing about facial recognition, and I locked eyes with Mark Hamill before all the Star Wars stuff came out. And he's just in this taxi line. He's just standing there with a fedora on and kind of like his collar popped up a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I got to go for it. So I walked up to him and he like looks at me and I could see it in his eyes was like this, like, oh shit moment.
Oh, here we go.
And I mouthed to him like, can I take my picture with you? And he kind of looked at his wife and then looked back at me and he like shrugged his shoulders. So as I got close, I thought, I'm not going to ruin this guy's day. Like there's like 100 people around. It was like right when Star Wars started to come back. And actually, I don't think the newer movie had come out yet. So he wasn't like, must have made it, but I don't, whatever. And so I walk up, I'm like, oh my God, Uncle Bob, is that you? Like mom's going to freak that I found you in the city. And he just starts laughing. And I said, and he goes, let's take a picture. We got to send it to her. So I took a selfie. But at this moment, Kristen and family turn around and just see me hugging on some man that I've literally been in the city for 30 seconds, and like I'm taking a picture, and they're like, and I'm like, shit, I'm like smiling and walking away, and like I waved to him, and I said, oh, I'll give mom, and he's like, give mom best, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, and I'm like shaking, going like, I don't even remember, like, why would I say, hey, Uncle Bob? Like, I don't even know where that came from, and I'm like, and they're like, Kristen's like, oh my God, did you give him money? And I was like, no, it was It was Luke Skywalker. And she's like, what? You've been in that? You just got off the subway. And I said, I'm not. And I showed her the picture. And Ryan was there, and he's like, oh my God, that's Mark Hamill. Like, how did you find Mark Hamill?
That's a good sighting. That's a good celebrity sighting.
Instantly in New York. So that's always my fun New York. That's my fun New York celebrity sighting.
Well, that's a good one. That is a good one. You got to see Luke Skywalker in New York City. I'm sorry, you saw Uncle Bob in New York City. That was pretty good.
Exactly. Jason, did you have any theater questions? I know, like,
yeah. One last question before you get to the hat. So you mentioned that your dad did some musical theater stuff. If you had the opportunity to do any role with your father, so both of you guys be in the same show, what show would it be and what 2 roles?
My dad and I want to do the 2 lead roles of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Nice.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
So
basically my dad's wardrobe is that show. Like they could really just go into his closet and dress us for it. But you know, that is just a good show. I think we would be really it would be cute for us to do. And we've been talking about that for years.
Yeah.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Awesome. So now for the listeners, are you saying like if you've seen the movie or if you haven't seen the movie, you have to see it. It's got Michael Caine and Steve Martin in it. So I'm assuming your dad would be Michael Caine, and then you would be
Steve Martin.
Yeah. Oh my God. One of my favorite scenes
on Broadway and Jonathan Lithgow on Broadway.
When he's Rupert, oh my God, that is like the best parts of any movie. Like,
which just looks so fun to play.
Right? Oh my! It's such a listeners. You have to see this. It is such a fun show, such a fun movie. It's a classic for sure.
Yeah, cool. And that would just be cool to do any show with my dad. Really, anything like that. So anything, but that's the one that we go to if we've chatted about it. It's a good. Thank you for asking that. He's gonna listen to this and he'll be like, "Oh, you're right. I love this show."
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, Evan, this is the time of the show where we bring out the top hat.
This is where I get that stomach ache.
Oh, 5 to curtain.
Who put stuff in there?
So it's just rapid fire, easy questions. Give us, top of your mind. So we do about 5 of them, and depending on if we like it, we might dig into a little bit more to find out. So randomly picked. This is fun. If you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be?
That I am a multi-millionaire and I give tons of money to charities all the time.
There we go. That's a good one.
Sounds like a Bachelor show.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I made all my money from old women.
Well, you said it's a family show. I can't. I gotta go back over here.
It's fun. Oh, this was good too. This kind of goes into what we already talked about. If you could hang out with anyone living for a day, who would you pick?
Dolly Parton.
They have to be alive. Dolly Parton.
Yeah. Yeah. I have been a fan. I mean, since I was a kid, there's just something about it really maternal. Reminds me of my mom. Like it doesn't look like my mom at all, but reminds me of my mother. There's something that I've connected in my mind. But there are people that have worked with her. She did 9 to 5 on Broadway, and there's not one person who has worked with her that has said anything but kind, wonderful things about who she is as a person. And I think to be near her glow would probably feel so unique and interesting, just to be in that shine that she emanates. I would love to have that for a day.
Oh my God, that's great. Cool. That's a really great one, because you're right. You never hear anything in anywhere, media, so nothing about Dolly Parton being anything other. I make the joke because we moved from Florida, where we had Mickey Mouse, to now we're in South Carolina, and we're only 3 hours away from Dollywood. So I gave up all my Mickey Mouse shirts for I must have like 4 or 5 Dolly Parton shirts. So she's
butterflies.
Like, Dolly. It's just Dolly's face. And now Mia, my 2-year-old, I listen to, like, I have also gotten the country bug, that I listen to a lot of country music, and she can pick out Dolly like in the first couple bars of the music, and she's like, "Is Dolly Parton, Daddy?" And I was like, "Yes, this is Dolly Parton." Like,
Yeah.
So I've trained her up.
She's one of those celebrities that, there's certain celebrities that I'm like, oh, I'm glad that I got that celebrity in my lifetime.
Right.
Like,
Right.
oh, I was born and lived in this, and I got to experience that celebrity. That was one of the celebrities of the, so I'm grateful for that. So she's one for me.
Did you hear her new song with Pitbull? Powerful
I
Women.
listened to it. It's on my gym mix.
It's that we listen to it almost every day because I got my
so
Powerful
fun.
Women in my house. It's so fun. It's so fun. Okay, next up. Oh, that's a bad one. Oh, no, that's a bad one too. Hold on. These are fun. Oh, give me a random fact that you know, Evan.
A
Random fact about anything.
that I know.
Anything you like, your party fact.
Well, this is of course about what I do for a living, but that like over 90% of deaf and hard of hearing kids have parents who don't sign.
Oh,
Yeah. And there's a choice. I mean, everyone they can make their own decisions about how, but like, even the kids who do sign, the parents don't sign to them. So it's always like, oh, that's not something that you would expect to hear.
Do they figure out a way to communicate and stuff?
Yeah, of course. I mean, depending on, some, yes, but there are some some relationships aren't as strong as they may be if, the parents, took the time to learn a language that was accessible to them. Some communicate fine without it. I don't put too much any judgment and put my beliefs on somebody. But that was just a fact that's like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that was a great transition. So I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do one more or just talk about that. Like
what?
Well, what's your favorite color? This is a quick one. I swear to God, this is what it says. Favorite color.
Favorite color. All right. I'm going to say navy blue or purple.
Or purple. Aha! I knew I wore the right color.
That's just the kiss ass.
So now, Evan, you transitioned us very well. So please tell the audience like what you do now, like from 2014 on. Like what are you like?
All right.
I know what you do, and it is heartwarming. My heart is like crying because of what you do is so awesome.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. But so first, let me say, so I'm a licensed mental health counselor, licensed in the state of Florida. Currently, my job is a family counselor therapist for deaf and hard of hearing kids in the school system. And so, I work on the school schedule, and I work with kids on social, emotional well-being. They're, and depending on whatever else they're kind of going through, we work on those things as, therapeutic interventions. And it's just, these kids are just so fantastic, and it's, I probably should, I've never been in a podcast, so I wasn't sure, like, if I was going to be seen or anything, like, I would be, like, advocating to have, like, an interpreter here with me. Like, I didn't know this was, like, a video kind of a thing. So hopefully this will be, like, there'll be a transcript available or something like that, to really, work with them and to kind of make sure that is accessible to them. But that's what I'm doing right now. And when I decided to transition from theater and performing, when I was in high school, I took American Sign Language, and I actually started performing songs in sign language through school. I probably wasn't qualified to do that. Looking back with my education now, being like, maybe it wasn't the best thing, but I didn't know at the time.
Right.
But like, so I performed there. Like that kind of transitioned me into performing as well, because that was really my only performance opportunities, like little things like with my dad. And so when I was transitioning out of performing, I just kind of need a little shift. I was like, I kind of feel stuck with what's happening in New York. I can't kind of get out of this image that's there of me. And and I grew up, turned into a man in New York, performing, going from job to job. So that was like my whole experience. So here I was unable to really pull on any life experiences other than what was happening in the theater. So it was really kind of strange. And I was like, okay, I also want to start getting back to my family. And so I thought, what am I going to do? And so I was a personal trainer in between gigs. And I was like, you know what? I always connected with people really well. And I noticed that even though I was able to help people physically, I was always able to build a relationship with them emotionally and psychologically. And I was fascinated by the brain and how the brain works. And so I thought, let me go back to school. Let me study psychology. And I said, well, here I am going to be in my late 30s. I don't want to just go back to school. I thought, what can I do that would be unique and something that I actually am passionate about? And I remembered really being involved in, American Sign Languages. I had a lot of deaf friends in high school. Um, and there was a school called Gallaudet. There is a school called Gallaudet University. It is the only liberal arts college that specifically designed for deaf and hard of hearing students. It's bilingual in American Sign Language and written English. Um, and for the undergrad, they accept a very small population of hearing students. They're called the Hearing Undergraduate Program. And I thought, you know what? If I can get into this program, I'll go study psychology and it'll be in another language. So I will learn American Sign Language. I've learned sign, but I didn't learn American Sign Language while learning psychology. I did that, got in, went there, got my undergrad, and I stayed for my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. And I got that degree, and I was thinking I was going to get my internship was the Deaf Addiction Services of Maryland. So I was working there, and I thought, I'm going to get this job here and just kind of transition. But there was a job opening at the school system down where I grew up. And so my sister was like, apply for that job. And so that worked out again. So I had an interview on Thursday at 2. At Thursday at 5, I got offered the job. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, Mom, I have to move home. And so I moved home, and I'm actually working in the elementary school that I went to, the middle school that I went to, and sometimes I'm at the high school that I went to. It's very full circle. My whole life has been very full circle, and almost everything that I've done in my life has kind of come together,
brought you to this place.
What I'm doing right now. So here I am working with these students. Now I just want to make sure that whenever I have an opportunity, I always try and put it out there. The deaf community does not need my help. They don't need my help. I want to make sure that as a counselor, I have the cultural competencies to work with this population, and I can provide direct access, direct services to them in American Sign Language if they choose to use me. Like, I just want to make sure that my colleagues and my teachers at Gallaudet University would be the most brilliant human beings. They knew how to connect and teach things to me. So the idea that I'm coming here to help any of them is like, no, I just want to make sure that I can provide accessibility, accessible counseling services. And I get to work with these really cool kids. They're just, I'm really lucky to get to do that. Like,
no, working with kids are like so rewarding.
I like a little bit of a kid whisperer too. Ever since I was little, I'm just, I'm kind of a big kid, so I be, musical theater, you're playing, and so all this, like, I'm just playful. And so I also kind of look, my hair fell out, so I shaved. I could look like a crazy mean person, but I'm just a big kid. And I think it allows me to connect, and still model that you can be just kind of mean looking dude and still be kind and great, welcoming and humble and warm. Necessarily humble, but
you like said, warm. Like Dolly, like you're like that glow, right? Like I feel like when you're kind, you have. I really do believe in like auras and kindness and like that glow, right? Like you can kind of, when you walk into a room, you might not know anything about that person, and before they even look at you or smile at you, I feel like you can really tell. You can feel about that person.
Often.
We're gonna get along, or they're nice, or maybe I should watch out and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, kids know better than anybody. They will like you, or they won't like you.
They don't like you, and they'll tell you whatever it is. I got like this thing on my tooth. Somehow I got a chipped tooth, and I had to get it fixed. And immediately I get back the next day, like, Mr. Evan, you have something on your tooth. And I'm just like, oh, you're so cute. They just tell whatever's on their mind. Like, yeah. But so I also get to work with them. Say it.
Yeah.
I just love them kids. I also work. So I do that, but I'm trying to start my private practice as well as a therapist, and that's just kind of in the early stages. But I also, because I will always be a performer, like, it has provided me with not just memories, it's provided me with skills. that I am able
Right.
to use as a therapist. I'm able to use if I'm speaking somewhere, if I'm connecting with individuals. Like these skills that I've developed as a performer and an actor, or something that are universal. Like I think everyone can benefit from the arts and learning these skills.
Oh
Whether
yeah.
you're a performer, it doesn't matter. If you have to speak at an event, if you have to speak at work, or
Mhm.
if a cousin that you've never met before asks you to be on a podcast, you can be ready to go. So you're ready for all that stuff. It's great. So additionally, I work at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts. I teach uh, musical theater dance to adults, and I teach acting to children. Musical theater stuff. So I do that. It's something that is so rewarding as well. I look forward to it. It reminds me that I had this whole other life.
Right.
That it's. I mean, unless I go like I have in my the downstairs bathroom, I have like I call it my memorabilia wall. Like it's just pictures of stuff that I did. So
Right.
unless I'm going to the bathroom downstairs, I forget that I had this whole other
A
life.
whole other life.
So then I
Wow.
go and I work and I start teaching this dance class to people, and I'm able to teach it to people who aren't trying to get a job on Broadway.
Right.
They're there to just experience the joy of dancing and moving your body to musical theater songs. It really is one of the highlights of my week. Whenever I get to do that, always get these cool uh, people, these human beings come into the
Yeah.
space, and they are vulnerable, and they come in there and they just go for it. And I love it. And these kids I get to work with, I get to watch them I get the kids that I work with at school, I get to watch them from
Right.
preschool all the way until which is amazing to watch them develop there. And then I get
Right.
to watch these kids at the Performing Arts Center develop as artists. And I get to
Right.
see them grow and connect with each other. And, it's a safe space. So you see these kids who get to be authentically themselves when
Right.
outside they may not be, they may not have,
Right.
the same opportunities at school or at home, but they come in there and you can just be supportive and you get to watch them flourish. And it's really wonderful. I look forward to it. And the team there is amazing. The whole Broward Center team, I get to work with this artist in residence. Her name is Tammy Holder, and she teaches there. She teaches all over. She's another one whose glow radiates, and
Radiate.
she sees these little stars, and she just plugs them in, and she just lets them
Charges them up.
rise. It's spectacular. So I get to work with her as well, which really I've learned a lot over the past 4 years working with her.
Your heart must be so full by the end of the day. Like
It really is.
Wow. Like what you do and what you give back and what you do for these kids and stuff like that. Like just hearing it makes me feel like I'm God, I'm not doing enough. Like,
oh yeah.
wow.
But it's nice,
Like,
you have to do self-care though. You have to, as a therapist working with kids, especially in school, you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because it's not all
not all fun. Right.
there's all stuff
Right.
happening, like, oh gee, there's some real life stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall, that reward that you get from knowing that there's, you could be having a real positive impact on somebody.
Right.
It's very nice, that intrinsic reward.
That's awesome. It brings me back to when I asked you, like, who was your person, right? And you told us, and from like your show, like, who was the guy that took you under his wing? And you said, like, now what's really cool is that you could be that person for these kids,
I never even thought of that.
Like,
I appreciate it. Like, my brain didn't even process it that way. But that's what he was like when I was saying that to him. He didn't get it either. Like, I don't think of it that way too. I'm just like, oh, here's what I do. I want to do it the best that I can do, and it'd be cool if somebody thought that of me.
Right. Evan, I hope that soon or eventually, years down the road, you get a show bill or an invite to a show that that you mentored a kid, like that and said, like, hey, listen, I went to your school, like you taught me when I was a child, and it really got my glow, and please come see me on like, I feel like that's going to happen, and I feel like in like 15 years we're going to get like a movie of you, and that's like how they're going to end. Stage light's going to go dim, like
Hey, put that out in the universe. You got to use the
Right?
secret. Put it out there.
Yeah, put it out there. I
Like
mean,
it.
how can it not be? Like you've had like such a unique, fascinating, like rewarding life. Like that's so great. Now Jason knows, because we worked at Disney. We met working at Disney together. That there was always this one ASL guy that was with the shows. Like he was always
Right.
in the front of the show signing and stuff like that. And we like to go just see him. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
know what they're saying, but like he like have you ever thought about doing that? Like he was part of the show. Like sometimes
Yeah.
that's even more fun.
Yeah. It's interpreting is too. It's too hard for me. It's too
Well,
much
okay.
responsibility for me.
Right.
You know, it's a very specific skill. There are times that I've interpreted for friends, but I'm not trained or qualified. It's
Oh, okay.
definitely not my passion in terms of when I'm working with a deaf client or a person who signs, I can ask for more information. Hey, I didn't understand what that meant. Can you say that
Oh, okay.
again? You know,
Mhm.
but when you are interpreting, you got to be on it. Uh, it is a very high pressure job.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet. Yeah.
it is, you know, but then you see those performers who are doing it, and I think one of the interesting things is as an interpreter, it can't really be about you. If it's about
Okay.
you, then you're doing it wrong.
Right.
But because it is so out of what we're used to seeing, you know, like, oh my God, look at that person, and the language itself is it's we would call it, let's say, animated, but all of that expression and that animation is actually grammar. So, you
Oh.
know, like, because, you know, we have, when we're speaking English, we have inflections and we have this,
Right.
you know, they have in American Sign, they have different parameters, and like there's grammar that would be spatial, where you're in space, the expressions on your face, you know, like this versus this, all of that is
Oh, well,
grammar.
yeah, I would say, I guess it would be, yeah, the kind of the tone of
Yeah,
what you're signing.
Yeah.
yeah, and so it
So
is just a lot of pressure. So as and also I'm a performer, so if I'm signing a song or something like that, I'm going to be signing, I'm going to be performing, and that is the
yeah.
opposite of what I should be doing. So I already know, like, I don't think that's right for me. uh
Right. Okay.
but
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's so, I respect what they're doing, it's so fascinating, and it's just
It's
really hard.
It's really cool.
Really hard.
I actually took American Sign Language in high school as well. So in
Prove
high
it.
school I took
No.
it, and yeah.
That's like saying Spanish, huh? I took Spanish in
I
high
still
school.
remember my name. Like it's been a long
That's, there
time,
you go, there you
but
go.
yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, it was so crazy because I remember going to class and my teacher was a college teacher that came in and taught, and it was like you know, so it was high school course, but you know, we're all in class and the teacher comes in and the teacher's deaf. And so we were forced to communicate through sign language. Like we didn't have, you know,
Oh yeah.
there was an interpreter there the very first day and that was it. And then after that, it was 100% communication through either sign language or if you didn't know it, you had to write it down. And it was
Yep.
so awesome to work with the teacher like that. But it's so funny because one of the assignments that we had to do was actually go to there was a school for the deaf that was in San Jose, is where I grew up, and it was a high school, and we went there and they actually had a play, and so I got to see a play done in
Oh,
sign language.
cool.
And that was one of the
Yeah.
coolest things because like the emotions that you're talking about, just it brings back all the memories because everything is on their face and the way that they sign and their hand movements and their body movements. It's
Yeah.
so intense and so powerful when they do that. It's so cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat.
I love hearing that. I wish more things were, you know, accessible to the deaf community.
Mhm.
It's I mean, American deaf citizens,
Right.
I would want them to have the same access to everything that I have. You
Yeah.
Right.
know,
Right.
and so
Exactly.
it's kind of like really an underserved population, and really, you know, these some of my friends, you know, some of their perspectives and their experiences. I just wish more people had an opportunity, and would take advantage of learning the language from a deaf person. Learn, if anyone's
Mhm.
listening to this,
I was going to ask.
learn
That was
sign
one of my
language from a
questions.
deaf person. You know, I
Okay.
mean, there are going to, of course, there are, you know, some CODIS people who are, you know, raised by children of deaf adults. You know, there's always exceptions, but ideally, you know, if you're going to learn a language, you want to learn it from someone who that's their native language. You know, it's really, I want everyone, if they can, you know,
Yeah.
the idea that you can't communicate with some of these professors and my cohort, the friends, that you can't quite communicate the way that I would, and see what you're missing out from these people.
Right.
Just great human beings. I've been pretty lucky with some of the people that have come into my life. So I just kind of want everyone to have the experience with them.
That experience.
So,
So you're saying the best, that was one of my questions, is what's the best way for somebody like me, no experience whatsoever, how would I learn ASL? Like, what would be a great way to take, like, to learn it?
well, ideally, you know, if you can take a class in person from a deaf
Okay.
a deaf person, that would be great. And then they have online, a lot of different places online that you can learn, take classes there. They have there's a lot of deaf influencers. They have people on Instagram and stuff. But there's also like a trend of people who don't know how to teach and sign, which is so
Teaching.
teaching
So
sign. It's like
you're learning the slang side, like.
well, even now you're just learning like the wrong signs.
Oh, right,
You know, they're
right.
like, this is how it is, and like you shouldn't be teaching that. You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
you know, a lot of my friends will be like, offensive. Why are you
Right.
doing
Yeah.
that? But I just recommend, you know, go online and make sure you're learning from someone who's deaf. You know, take a class at a college where there's deaf teachers. Yeah, that's what I
Wow.
go out there, go do it. You know, the more
Okay,
people,
yeah.
the better.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Evan, I really appreciate your time. I like, you're so fascinating. I'm just honored to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for
Jason,
inviting me. I
and
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so
we had a
much.
blast. Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you, thank you,
Wes.
thank you for
You guys
this.
are cool to chat with. You guys kind of like I'm sitting in my living room or something.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
Awesome. Well, Evan,
Well,
we
cool,
really
guys.
appreciate your time, and God bless with what you're doing.
Yes.
We'll make this. I'll talk to Jason. We'll try to make this as accessible as we can, and really, really, I do appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Send my love to the family that I barely see.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I
We
see more
see
than
it. We're
anyone
on.
else
We're
in my
on. We're
family.
out there.
I actually I see your mother-in-law and your sister-in-law more than I see like my own sister. Like it's insane. But send my
That's
best to family, and congrats on number 4 coming up. So.
Oh, thank you, and
Of
hey,
course.
when you get in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, we'll come see you.
Totally. I'll let you know. I'll send you an invite. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys. I
Evan.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Evan.
Take care. Bye.
Holy cannoli, Jason. And yes, I said cannoli because he was in New York. Like, talking to Evan makes me want to. I really want to get back into the arts. Like, that.
Yeah.
Really is, like, maybe that's why I'm dance dad. That's why I love seeing my kids dance and stuff like that. But I do miss the theater. I do miss the theater, you know, and everything like that. But wow, what a wealth of information that was.
Yeah, that was awesome. And for all the theater people we have on here, maybe we can put on our own show pretty soon. We can have
Our own
we can have
virtual
Dave,
show.
right? Like, have a band playing music, you know, it'd be good.
Wow. But so just to go again through Evan's credits, is he was on the European tour for the musical Grease. He was the national and Japan tour for Swing, the national United States tour for Saturday Night Fever, Broadway debut for Disney's Tarzan. So that's starting Disney's Tarzan on Broadway. Broadway for Legally Blonde, and then the national tour for Legally Blonde. Like, wow, that's more credits than a lot of people can say. And they're all like, they're amazing credits. Evan is an amazing person. He's doing amazing things now with ASL and like therapy for kids. He's also teaching the arts to kids and adults and everything like that. Like, wow, what a different, like I really meant it. Like, I hope that in years to come down the road, Evan understands the difference that he's making in these kids' lives. And, you know, and I hope that's paid back to him and he gets that show bill, or he gets that, like, hey, I'm directing a show, thank you for giving me that spark and everything like that. So, like, kudos to you, Evan. It was our pleasure to have you on our show. Listeners, Jason, good night, sweet dreams, happy day, till we meet again. I love you.